Okay. It is Thursday, April 30th, 2020 at 4 p.m. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Pinehurst Board of Adjustment, notice properly given. This meeting is being held electronically using the virtual meeting platform Zoom in an effort to comply with Governor Cooper's Executive Order 121 to address the COVID-19 health emergency. I'd like to note that we have a quorum. All of our permanent voting members are present for this meeting. Leo Santawasso, Joel Schreiberg, Cindy Burnett, David Kelly, and myself. In the event that we need an alternate at any point, Philip Shoemaker is standing by. For some housekeeping procedures to get us started, I will let you know that since we're all doing this from home, there may be interruptions that we hadn't planned for, and we'll ask for everybody's understanding where that goes. This procedure is being videotaped. It's important for all of us to make sure that our microphones are unmuted when we're contributing thoughts. I'm going to proceed a little more slowly and deliberately today than we normally do in an effort to make sure that due process is being ensured for our applicant and our public, and that we're all having an opportunity to speak. As the last housekeeping note, Zoom does have a chat function. We're asking that nobody use that, please, in an effort to maintain transparency and to comply with North Carolina's sunshine laws. Any questions before we move ahead? All right. So first item of business is to approve the minutes of the Board of Adjustment meeting from Thursday, March 6, 2020. Are there any changes or additions that need to be made to those minutes? Okay, hearing no changes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, February 2nd, 2020?
Julia, you mentioned March 6th?
February. Thank you. February 6th, 2020.
If it's February 6th, 2020, I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion has been made by Leo and seconded by Cindy. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion made and carried. Hearing no opposition, we have approved the minutes of Thursday, February 6, 2020. With there being no other business, we'll go ahead and move into our public hearing number 1. That's the property at 1 Inverary Road. Do I have a motion to recess from our regular meeting and enter into public hearing number 1?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by David Kelly, seconded by Leo Santawasso. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion made and seconded. And carried. We are moving into our public hearing. This particular agenda item was previously scheduled and duly noticed to go before this board at our regularly scheduled meeting on April 2nd. That meeting was canceled in order to comply with the governor's executive order. Oh, okay. Thanks, Alex. Sorry, it took me a moment to figure out what was happening. Rather than attempt to swear in all who are going to testify at one time, I'll be swearing in each witness separately immediately prior to their testimony. At this time, I'm going to ask if any member of our board needs to recuse themselves due to ex parte communications, conflict of interest, financial interest in the outcome, having already made up their mind, or a close relationship with the applicant.
This is Joel. In the transparency, I know both the Moy, Joni and Tom. Have played golf with them. I'm socially active with them, but I have no axe to grind here. I don't feel need to recuse myself, but I do want to just state that.
Okay. Joel, just to clarify, I assume that you've never had any conversations with the Moynahans regarding the substance of this hearing today. Can you confirm that?
No, not to the substance. I have had conversation with them about how they should go about applying for this, and just giving them advice on where to go and get the paperwork and who to file it with, et cetera.
Okay. Hearing that information from Joel, is there anyone on the board who would like to voice any concerns about Joel's participating as a permanent member of this board in this hearing? No, hearing no objections. Thank you very much for letting us know, Joel. We'll go ahead and move forward.
Julia?
Yeah.
Julia, I have a comment with regard to, there was no ex parte communication, but I did visit the property yesterday, knocked on the door. Mrs. Monahan let me in. I wanted to see from the inside of the building how the facility was arranged and how the various components of the addition fit with what was already on site. There was no real discussion about the application or whether it would get approved or not, or anything in that regard. Just my own information to see how things would be put together, looking from inside the building as also outside the building.
Okay, thank you, Leo. Any objections from the board with Leo continuing to sit before this hearing? All right, thank you very much. We'll proceed. Just as a reminder, the Board of Adjustment's decision must be based on competent, material, and substantial evidence that is in the record. I'm gonna ask us first to have Alex speak on behalf of the village by reading the request into the record and providing a backstory about this application. Sorry, that's my cat. Okay, Alex. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give here today is the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for remembering to raise your hand without me telling you to do so. All right, Alex. Could you please go ahead and give us the information about the application?
Gladly. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive testimony for a variance request from Section 9.2A, Table of Dimensional Requirements for the property at 1 Inverary Road, which is further identified by Moore County Parcel ID number 000139558. This property is located within the R30 Medium Density Residential Zoning District. Specifically, the applicant and the property owners, Thomas and Joan Moynihan, are requesting a variance to encroach approximately 3 feet, 3 3/4 inches into the 60-foot lakefront golf course setback to allow for the addition of a screened-in porch. A little bit of background and analysis on the property itself, which is included within the staff report. The 60-foot lakefront setback is applicable to this property due to the fact that the rear property line abuts a lake located on golf course number 7. And the subject property is part of the original subdivision by Pinehurst Resorts Company in 1985, which is recorded with Moore County Register of Deeds and Plat Cabinet 3, Slide 90, and is shown as Lot 31 of golf course number 7, Phase 1B, which is included as Exhibit H within your guys' packet. And this property is approximately 0.59 acres in size, or just a little over 25,000 square feet. And the records indicate from the Moore County Tax Department and the Register of Deeds that the property was purchased by the current owner in 2005, and the home that is there now was built in 2003. The lot itself is triangular in shape and therefore only has 3 lot lines. 2 of the lot lines abut Pinehurst Resort Golf Course number 7, which is zoned RD for Recreation Development District, and the northern property line abuts a field of play of the golf course, and the western line abutting the lake. The remaining lot line to the east runs along the right-of-way of Inverary Road, and all the other remaining single-family residents nearby that were part of the original subdivision are also zoned R30. It's important to note that this existing home and the lot are legally non-conforming relative to a few of the zoning requirements, one being the 30,000 square foot minimum lot size and the 60-foot lakefront golf course setback. As previously stated, the lot was platted prior to enacting of the current zoning regulations by the Village of Pinehurst. So when the dwelling was originally constructed, it was constructed into the setback that we have before us now. So the request to vary the setback is to allow for a further encroachment than it currently exists. Also, the property owner did receive a variance from the Zoning Board of Adjustment in July of 2009 for an encroachment to the golf course setback on the northern end of the property, which is not relative to this request, but another setback on the property. As indicated in the application, the property owner references presence of wetlands on the western portion of the property, which creates, in their words, a unique circumstance. Staff has verified the location of those wetlands shown on the latest version of the National Wetlands Inventory and has included a map depicting such as included as attachment with this report. In addition to the staff exhibits, which are included with this report and the aforementioned original subdivision plat, the applicant has submitted an application, a site plan indicating the location of the porch encroachment, elevations of the proposed porch, a release of a utility easement from Moore County Public Utilities, and a letter from Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of Pinehurst Resorts, indicating their view of the proposed encroachment for review and consideration of the Board of Adjustment. The release of easement that is also shown here by the applicant is followed by the decommission of a previously installed sewer infrastructure on the property by Moore County, which Moore County has no further interest in the easement and has therefore turned that rights back over to the property owner. So in addition, again, to this staff report and its attachments, we have also included the deed of ownership and that original subdivision plat as exhibits for review and consideration of the board. And a little bit more background about the variance process, which we all know. It is intended to provide relief from zoning requirements of the Pinehurst Development Ordinance in cases where strict application of particular zoning requirements create some sort of practical difficulty and a necessary hardship prohibiting use of land in a manner otherwise allowed. The Zoning Board of Adjustment actions that you guys have before you, after conducting a duly advertised public hearing, you have the authority to subpoena more witnesses and may request additional information. You may continue the public hearing on the requested variance. You can conduct additional public hearings on this application. You may grant the requested variance. You may deny the requested variance. And you can also grant the requested variance with conditions that are reasonably related to this request. The concurring vote of 4 out of 5 of the members is needed to grant the variance, and staff does not formulate a formal recommendation on this request, as your decision should be based solely on the testimony submitted and given during this quasi-judicial hearing. Also would like to take the moment to enter the rest of the items into the record officially. Also included within your guys' packet and part of the record is a draft findings of fact. If staff would like for you guys, and whenever you guys are finished deliberating and ready to make a decision, if you would carefully review your standards of review and making your findings of fact and state the reasons of making your findings with each one. With that, staff has nothing else further to add, but will be available if need be.
I'm going to ask us to go one by one and see if there are any questions from anyone on the board for Alex. So Joel, any questions?
I'm sorry, say that again, Julie.
I'm just going to go one by one through the board members to give everyone a chance to speak and to provide some clarity. So I was just asking if you have any questions for Alex at this time.
No.
Okay. David, any questions for Alex?
Yes. Alex, the briefing you just gave us said that the property line abuts the lake. Isn't there a part of the property line that extends out into the lake at all?
It's hard to really verify that. I've kind of showed up the aerial here for you to look at, and you can kind of see that a lot of times, obviously the high water line it moves, it adjusts, but how we determine and we apply the setback is based on the fact does the property line abut a lake area. So it doesn't necessarily have to follow the high water line to be applicable for in these regards.
Yeah, I'm not so much talking about the floodplain or relative to the level of the lake, but isn't there a portion of the property line that extends out into the lake?
It may very well be. We can.
Are the and my second question was going to be, are the setbacks determined from the property line or from the bulkhead on the lake?
Setbacks are determined from the property line. So therefore, if in fact it did extend out into the lake, then the setback would still be determined from that property line and not the lake itself. Right.
Do we have that cadastral survey in the documentation?
The property owner.
The reason I ask is, in my experience, usually the property line will extend out in the lake and it'll allow you to construct things like a dock or that sort of stuff. Not always, but sometimes.
I've come across that before, David, and it does. We do allow for that along the Lake Pinehurst area. However, it's really not applicable in this instance. And I don't think the site survey that was submitted as part of the exhibit by the applicant shows where the quote unquote lake part, just the property line.
Understood. Thank you.
This is just for my clarification, Alex. I think I know, but I know for variances, they cannot be issued to extend or expand nonconformities, but that's just in land use, right? And this is, the land use is appropriate on here, so this would not apply.
That's correct. The only thing that's non-conforming and relative to this property are all dimensional standards, which can be varied.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just confirming.
And then any questions from you?
Yeah, just a clarification, David, with respect to the location of the property line along the lake, I believe the wetlands location on the drawing or the picture that was included with the other documentation is not an accurate representation of the real lot lines, because you can see that on the northern side, the existing driveway is outside the property line. So I think wherever this information was taken from hasn't really been coordinated with the actual property lines. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can see that clearly here, and the wetlands area obviously is including part of the floodplain, and I don't know what that line that is crosshatched wetlands there represents. I'm imagining it's the 413 feet above mean low water, which is usually our 100-year floodplain in most areas. But yeah, I don't know that, but I do understand what you're saying, and I see that the red lines show that the driveway would be located outside of that. So yeah, the purpose of my question was if we were dealing with an issue that became a non-issue because, oh, oops, hey, our property line extends out in the lake, we're really meeting the setback, and it became moot. That was the reason why I brought it up. But apparently that's not the case.
I have a question for Alex. So Alex, in reference to Exhibit G, and then that's the letter on behalf of Pinehurst LLC.
Is that just me, or is this all garbled for everyone else?
Jules, for some reason, it's very difficult to hear you.
Now, any better? Is that any better?
For some reason, no.
Huh.
And now, yes.
And yeah, now yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, fine.
Okay, well, okay. I don't know what I did, but we're gonna hope it lasts. So Alex, in reference to Exhibit G, which is a letter on behalf of Pinehurst LLC, did you happen to have any communication with Mr. Higginbotham or anyone else at Pinehurst LLC regarding this letter?
Julia, thanks for asking. Yes, as usual, you know that I do typically reach out to whatever representative from Pioneers LLC whenever these are such presented to us when we have these applications before us. And I did reach out to Mr. Higginbotham, and he has confirmed that he did meet with the Moynahans, and he did in fact author this letter.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, board, any other questions for Alex at this time? All right, hearing no other questions, I'm going to ask if there is anyone there today who is going to testify on behalf of the applicants and owners, Thomas and Joan Moynahan.
Make sure you can hear. Okay, I'm Tom Moynahan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for being with us today, Mr. Moynahan.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. So if I could please ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're going to give here today is the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much, sir. If you can please give us the information about your application and why you are before the board today.
Okay. One thing I would add, and besides Mr. Higginbotham, there should be a letter in the file from the Architectural Review Board of Fairwoods on 7, in which they approve what we're seeking to do.
Alex?
It's not included within your guys' packet. I don't recall seeing that whenever I got the original submission, which I do have before me.
Anyway, if it's not there, I could provide it if it's necessary. Anyway, I can start out if you'd like me to.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. My wife and I have worked very hard since buying our home in 2005 to make sure it presented a very nice appearance, as it's the first house you see when you enter the Fairwoods from 15501. We believe all of the improvements we've made to the property have been visually appealing and of high quality, and that is what we intend for the proposed addition should you see fit to grant our request for a variance. As appears in our application, we do not believe the hardship we claim is self-imposed, rather is due to the size and nature of our lot. In addition, should you see fit to grant our application, we do not believe it will harm the public welfare, have an excessive impact on the general zoning plan of the Village of Pinehurst, or will it adversely impact surrounding property values. We actually sit way apart from most others. On the other side of Inverry Road, there are 2 houses over there. And those folks did receive notice of this hearing, and I don't believe they responded.
Alex?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we did send the adjacent property owners notification, and you have the property owner notification map as well as the labels included within the staff report. So staff has not heard from anyone who was notified about this meeting and re-notified about this meeting that it would be held in this manner.
Okay, thank you. Now, to get down to the basics as far as whether a variance is maybe considered warranted or not, we wish to convert our existing rear deck into a screened-in porch. To do so, the porch would encroach approximately 3 feet, 3 3/4 inches into the setback for a distance of approximately 10 feet at the northwest end. I didn't realize, I should have realized that most everyone other than Leo would be doing this virtually, if that's the way you express it. And I did bring handouts of everything for all the members of the board. As part of it, there's a sketch that was made by Mark Parsons, who's the fellow that's designed our deck. And in relation to where the encroachment occurs, it runs for, as I say, about a 10-foot stretch, but it's all the way at the end of our deck. And it, from our standpoint, is not a major encroachment. Anyway, firstly, the unnecessary hardship. The unnecessary hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to our property and not something that we have done. Number two, on information and belief, our lot is the only triangular lot in the Fairwoods and is among the smallest in terms of square feet. The pond and wetlands resulted in our house being built within 1 foot of the 60-foot setback. The triangular shape of our lot and the proximity of the pond and wetlands are the conditions that are peculiar to our property, resulting in the hardship. The hardship does not result from any actions taken when the house was built, since the proximity of the pond and wetlands and the triangular shape of the lot prevented it from being located elsewhere. And parenthetically, we didn't build the house. I think the house was built in 03 and we bought it in 05. And lastly, we believe the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of your ordinance. Our home is set apart from all other homes. The variance, if granted, will result in a minimal intrusion into the setback. And as I said, in addition, the Pinehurst Resort and the Architectural Review Board of the Fairwoods support our request. So again, I thank you very much for going through all this technical stuff to give me an opportunity to appear here. So we respectfully request that you grant our request for a variance.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and, just as I did with Alex, go through the members of the board and give everyone an opportunity one by one to ask any questions of Mr. Moynihan. Joel, why don't you get us rolling?
Yeah, I mean, I just know from again, this is just firsthand knowledge, similar to what Leo did, that right now the porch is very, very small. And one of the reasons that they want to enclose it is, strangely enough, the birds off the pond, if they go out on the porch and leave the sliding deck windows open, birds fly into the house.
That presents, not to interrupt Mr. Schreiber, but I have 2 bird dogs, and frequently when they come home, my dogs are pointing a bird that happened to have flown into the house, which is neither here nor there.
So if the Moynahans were to enclose this now to prevent that from happening, the size of the deck would just be, it really wouldn't be practical from an aesthetic point of view from inside the house. There's hardly enough space right now to do anything. So that's just an observation.
Okay. David, any questions?
Yeah, a couple. So the deck area exists now and you're just screening it in. Do I understand that right?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly, I didn't hear. The deck area, what?
The deck area that we see there, it's existing, and the thing you're doing is screening it in, or you're adding the deck? Maybe I misunderstood.
But I don't know what I'm looking at, the same thing that you folks are. There's a sketch of the house there.
Yes.
Okay, it says proposed porch.
Yes.
If you were to draw a line down from the arrow at the point of proposed porch, the deck is that far out right now, but then the rest of it is we're extending it out all the way to be straight across. Right now it comes back in about 2 or 3 feet, and then we have a railing running down.
Understood. Thanks for the clarification. The second thing that I was going to ask, if we were all sitting together in the village hall and Mr. Moynihan wanted to present us something, he would maybe hand us a copy, and we, Jules, you have to correct me if I'm wrong here, we would be able to review it together. If that's true, is it possible that the document be passed to Alex somehow and be able to be shown on our screens, that we could incorporate it into what, if other people think it's significant, may or may not be significant. But my point is, I didn't want to limit Mr. Moynihan because of our virtual conference.
Well, first, the only two documents that I brought with me, the first one was my speech, for lack of a better word, and I made you copies of that, but I read it verbatim, so you're already aware of what that is. And then the sketch I referred to from Mark Parson is identical to what is on the screen now. And the only reason I referred to that was to indicate that the encroachment, from my prejudice point of view, is a very minimal encroachment at a final corner of the proposed deck or proposed porch.
Yes, sir. I was referring to the letter I think you referred to from the Fairwoods on 7 Architectural Committee. Or that one. That was the one.
Okay. I don't have.
Yeah, my point in asking that question was so that you aren't in any way limited by the fact that we aren't all sitting together, that you would be afforded the same opportunity as if we were all sitting together. In this case, I'm sure you would have brought 5 or 6 copies or one, we'd all pass it around, we'd all look at it, and we may be able to introduce it into the record. So if that were the case, then maybe Alex can somehow put it on the screen. Is that possible?
So again, I have the original submission here before me, and I looked through that whenever that was first mentioned. I didn't come across it. Also, I would like for the board to consider too, if we were to have some notification in writing of the ARB, is that something that the board would consider as evidence and not maybe potential hearsay evidence?
Right. If available, we would have the hearsay evidentiary problem, David, unless there was somebody present who could authenticate that letter.
I can't understand you, Jewel.
Really?
Is there something in front of your microphone?
No.
There you go. I think your notebook is in front of your microphone.
Okay, let's try that.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, I was just saying, even if Mr. Moynihan had that letter available, we would have an authentication problem unless there was somebody there from Fairwoods who could authenticate that the letter is indeed from their architectural review committee.
Okay, so basically the response to my question is that even if we were all together, this wouldn't make any difference.
Right, unless...
Yeah, I just didn't want him to be prejudiced in any way from the fact that we're having a virtual meeting.
Well, the point I would make to you also is that if Fairwoods didn't approve it, we couldn't build it, even if you gave us a variance. So the fact that they might write a letter, that letter really is of no import, as I see it, in terms of whether or not we're entitled to a variance under the terms of the ordinance and what facts we've tried to put forth today.
Sure, thank you. Any other questions, David? Okay, I'm going to go to Cindy.
Just for clarification, it looks like that you are lining the screened-in porch with the other lines of your house, and that's why you want to encroach so that it'll line up with the part that juts out. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're in the course of doing what we propose to do. They're going to realign the roof so we have a flat roof inside of the screened-in porch.
Okay.
You know, it's a flat roof as opposed to now we have just awnings that come out and cover the deck up.
So part of the reason you're doing this is for the roof line as well, so that it lines up with the main structure.
It's going to look better, put it that way. I'm not a builder or whatever, but the roof line will conform and be straight out over the deck.
Okay.
And the other thing is too, there's being right on the pond, there are quite a few little creatures flying around at night, mosquitoes and so forth, that the screened-in porch will certainly help enable us to use that area more so than we can now.
Would you have been allowed to build this when the sewer line was running through your property, or did you have to wait for that to be decommissioned before you could do this?
We had to wait for that to be done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Leah? Leo, any questions for our applicant?
I do, thank you.
Leo, I think you need to unmute your mic.
There
Can
you go.
everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody look at the drawing that's labeled SD1 on the lower right-hand corner. On the lower left-hand corner, there's Mark Wesley Parsons stamp or what have you. This represents the actual lot, the location of the house within the setbacks, and pretty much identifies the fact, at least in my observation, what I saw when I was out there yesterday, that the property line does not extend into the lake or whatever might be called wetlands. The original property was platted and developed with a 30-foot setback along the lake. And that's represented in this drawing. It appears to be taken from a proper survey, but the information as to who did it and when is not identified. However, David, if we look at the sketch on SD1, apparently prepared by Mark Parson, which is the rear view of the house that you see when you're standing on the other side of the lake and looking at the property. From the right-hand side, that main...
Give Alex a second to catch up with you, Leo. He needs drawing SD1.
Yeah.
These are architectural elevations.
This is SD2.
Yeah, and you're looking for SD1?
No, let's look at this one.
SD2 architectural elevation. Got it.
The plane of the structure on the right, that plane extends across the existing first bay of the deck. From that point, the railing of the deck is about 3 feet, 3 inches in toward the building itself. So what they're doing is just extending the plane of that existing structure of the house plus the portion of the existing deck and extending it to the north. It's maybe 35 or 40 feet long total by the 3 foot, 3 inch dimension. It adds about 18 square feet of area within the what is now or what's shown on the original drawing as a 30-foot setback.
Clear. Thanks for the clarification.
Pardon?
That's clear to me, and thank you for the clarification.
Okay. The deck expansion is going to require supports from the bottom of the deck all the way down to ground level. That would also be within that, at least one support would be in the area that's encroaching into the setback. Just to be clear, that's no problem to me. Whether it's an integral part of the structure or the deck itself, it doesn't make any difference to me. And that, again, is just a clarification that I just want everybody to understand. Mr. Monahan, you say can you represent on the SD1 sketch where the sanitary sewer line was? Did that run behind the house, between the house and the lake?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a sanitary... Hello? There's a sanitary sewer cleanout adjacent to Inverary Road. Is that your sanitary sewer connection into the existing sanitary sewer main?
What they did is they rerouted the sewer so it went, I'll call it, on the opposite side from the lake. Back side of our house is what I'd call it. They went up the outside of our property and then got into Inverary Road and came down Inverary Road. The county then came in and connected us to the new line, and then they filled the old line with concrete. So the old line is all filled with concrete. I don't know whether to answer your question.
Okay. Thank you. That clears my questions up. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. At this time, if there are no more questions for our applicant.
Julia, move your
sorry?
notebook off your microphone.
It's not anywhere near my microphone.
Well, you're breaking up again. I don't know. Okay. I can't.
Put it around my desk. Okay. Try that.
Oh.
I mean, if worst comes to worst, I'll switch over to my phone and we'll just do this on my phone. You all let me know if we're at that point.
I can understand you perfectly well. You sound like when we used to talk to submarines, what it sounded like. So.
Excellent. Okay, well, then I'll just make sure I won't say too much. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay. At this time then, are there any members of the public, Alex, who have indicated an interest in providing material, competent, or sworn testimony on this matter?
I have not heard from anyone, and I'm getting the no signal from Kelly, so no one has indicated an interest to participate.
All right. Then I'm going to leave the hearing open for our discussion, and then I will close it before we have our vote. We have one evidentiary issue with Exhibit G, which is hearsay evidence because Mr. Higginbotham is not available to authenticate it. However, because he has authenticated it with Alex, and this is considered a technical report, I'm comfortable allowing this evidence into the record. Are there any objections from anyone on the board? Okay, let's consider this part of our record then and open for our consideration. Is there any discussion the board would like to have before we close for a vote? David.
I would just like to point out for consistency's sake that in the past, in similar circumstances, we've considered the impact of the golf course, and we've considered it fundamental to our decision process that the golf course and Pinehurst Resort be not object to what the applicants have provided to us. We've also looked at land configurations and the extent to which the property can be utilized for its intended purpose, et cetera. So for consistency's sake, I see this a lot of similarities between what we've looked at in the past.
Thank you. If there is no further discussion at this time, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing and re-enter our Board of Adjustment meeting?
Julia, can I just make a suggestion? Why don't you just mute your microphone and then turn it back on again, and let's see if that helps.
I'm happy to. I have. Try that. Any better? Yeah. Yep. Yep. How about now? Whoops. All right, I'm going to terminate this call. All right. You got me?
Yep.
Okay, I can't see myself at all, but I'm going to trust you all can see me. So. All right, so I was asking for a motion to close the public hearing and re-enter the Board of Adjustment meeting.
So moved. If Leo so moved, then I'll second.
Okay, so that was a motion by Leo and a second by David Kelly. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion's been made and seconded and carried to re-enter our Board of Adjustment meeting. To summarize the facts before us, this request by our applicant, the Moynahans, is to vary the 60-foot minimum lakefront setback from the property line in the R30 zoning district to permit a further encroachment of approximately 3 feet, 3.75 inches into the lakefront setback. The applicant requests this variance to permit the existing rear deck to be converted into a screened-in porch. The 60-foot lakefront setback is applicable to this property due to the fact that the rear property line abuts the lake located on the golf course in number 7. As Alex indicated earlier, we have our standards of review that a necessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance, that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, and the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner, and that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. At this time, we have the option of approving the variance with conditions, or to continue the meeting for another date for determination, or to deny the variance. For the variance to be approved, it requires 4 votes of this board. If anyone is going to make a motion, please use the format suggested by staff to aid them in creating the finding of facts for this determination. Do we have a motion regarding the application for a variance?
I move that we approve the application for the variance. And I would say that unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance because the lot and existing home are already legally non-conforming relative to the 30,000 minimum square foot lot size and the 60-foot lakefront setback regulation of the R30 zoning districts. And the hardship results from the condition that it's a triangular lot. Pardon?
I think that should mean the hardship does not result.
The hardship does not result. The hardship, oh yeah, does not result. Well, it does result.
I think she had
I'm
it right.
sorry, Julia.
Yeah,
You were right. The
it
hardship results. I'm sorry.
It does result from the conditions that
Yeah,
it's
I'm
a triangular lot with only 3 lot lines, and there's wetlands that go across the property. And The hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant because the lot was platted in 1985, which was prior to the zoning regulations being adopted by the village. And when the dwelling was originally constructed, the previous setback on the lakefront side was 30 feet, and now it's 60 feet. So I feel like the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved.
Thank you, Cindy. Does anyone second Cindy's motion?
I will.
Okay, we have the motion made by Cindy, seconded by David. Is there any discussion at this time? Okay, let's proceed to a voice vote, please. Joel, how do you vote?
I approve the variance.
David?
I agree that we should grant the variance.
Cindy?
I agree that we should grant the variance.
Leo?
Approve.
And I also approve, so that is 5 votes in favor of the application, and the variance is approved.
Okay.
One more.
All right, at this time then, returning to our general business. Before we ask to adjourn, I would like to thank Mr. David Kelly. This auspicious Zoom meeting represents his last meeting after years of service with the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Adjustment. We are all incredibly grateful for his service, his insights, and his expertise, and you will be missed, David. Come back and join us as soon as you can.
I thank you. I truly thank you for that, Jules. I also want to thank Leo, who was one of his motivations for having the meeting before I left was he stated that he wanted to publicly thank me for what I've been doing, and I appreciate that. If you guys will yield me a couple seconds, I'd just like to say that it's been my pleasure and my privilege and my honor to work with all of you. One of the things that I learned in business school is that successful businesses and business leaders are those where they have groups making decisions with people with different viewpoints, where the chairman of the group acts as a facilitator and gets all the opinions and all the information on the table to make successful decisions. And I think we do that very well. And I think we have a great group of people with different backgrounds, different knowledge, different strengths. And I really think that our chairs do a good job of getting all the information on the table so we can make good decisions and good recommendations. So it's been, again, my privilege and honor to work with all of you. And I look forward to seeing you sometime, maybe from the gallery.
I'd just like to add my 2 cents also, David, to thank you for your 6 years of sterling service. We appreciate your efforts, even though you were over the pond a few times, and we missed you, and we will certainly miss you. And I appreciate the service you rendered, especially as vice chair of the Village of Pinehurst Planning and Zoning Board. Appreciate your help. God bless. Good luck. Get another hole in one.
Okay, Alex, do we have any more business before us?
Not today. As you guys know, and you'll see on the agenda that the next meeting date, the regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment is set for next Thursday, May 7th. The board does have business before them at this time. It is a request from another variance from table 9.2 of dimensional requirements of the Pinehurst Development Ordinance. We hope to have the agenda packet ready by the end of this week, and stay tuned for more information moving forward for that. So it does appear, and we have noticed the meeting to be held in the same manner that we held this meeting this evening. One thing that the board would need to consider is we do need to have a replacement permanent Board of Adjustment member to take David Kelly's position. So we would need to have that on the table, and that will be need to be looked at by the board at the next regular meeting, if at all possible, so we can have 5 seated members for that.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you.
I would also like to put another 2 cents in. Planning and zoning has lost both vice chairs. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have, at least I have, talked to 2 folks that will be willing to assume those vice chair positions starting next month, officially. And how do we go about that, Alex?
Can I excuse myself, folks?
Yeah, you're fine. You can leave.
Thank you again for all your.
You're welcome.
While we're kind of discussing future business coming up, the Planning and Zoning Board regular meeting for next week has been canceled due to lack of business, and because the Board of Adjustment has business, and obviously with the current situation we're all in, having meetings other than in this matter is pretty well void at this time. So we are looking at maybe potentially scheduling a special Planning and Zoning Board meeting toward the middle of the end of May. And with that meeting, we can put an agenda item on there for the board to consider appointing 2 vice chair positions. We'll point you guys to the Planning and Zoning Board rules of procedure or how the board can appoint those such members. So if you guys, sounds like we've got a couple folks that are willing, so we can actually put that on the agenda at the next meeting and take care of that business as well.
Good, thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I would just like to extend my thanks to our staff for putting together this platform for a meeting today. Special thanks to Alex, who I know has put in extra time meeting with each of us to make sure that there aren't going to be any technological issues, and that we had a backup plan if there would be. So thanks to everyone on the staff there at the Village who has worked hard to provide excellent service to the members of our community and to support our volunteers. So thank you very much. With all that said then, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, motion to adjourn from Joel. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, David.
Very appropriately, Mr. Kelly has seconded the motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing no opposition, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.